So welcome, folks. My name is Christy Lalonde, and I'm working with the team that's been organizing this week of Get Your Mental Health in Motion, a week to be well. You know, it's Mental Health Week, and it's really important for all of us to be looking after our mental health, particularly with everything that's been going on in the last more than a year now. You know I have my good days and bad days, and so these events that we've planned for you all week are hopefully helping to nurture your mental health. And so today it's my honor to be welcoming Troy and Shauna from the Feather Carriers program. And if you haven't heard of the Feather Carriers program, it is a really interesting program. I've been fortunate to take a one-day sort of abridged version of it with one of the founders, John Rice, and it's a really great story. It's the Feather Carriers is a leadership for life promotion initiative that encompasses a community mobilization strategy and collaborative life promotion training approach. It was founded by, as I mentioned, John Rice, Dr. Ed Connors, and Dr. Debbie Wilson-Denard. And the vision came out of a relationship to the land and requests from FMI communities in this region who are looking for additional supports and resources related to suicide prevention. So tonight is they're doing a storytellers session with us from the Feather Carriers. And so I'm really pleased to welcome Troy and Shauna with us tonight. All proceeds this week will be supporting the Child and Youth and Family Waiting Room at our Community Health Hub. This is a program that we've recently expanded to support child and youth mental health. So I think something that's really needed, obviously, in this area. The specialty waiting room that we're raising funds to create will provide a space that's welcoming, comforting, and safe, physically, mentally, and emotionally for the children and families who are coming to receive service. The room is designed to reduce anxiety during visits, offer space to play and have fun while waiting for an appointment, and hopefully increase receptivity to healthcare services. You know, it's quite nerve-wracking sometimes for young children, particularly those who are experiencing a mental health issue, to receive treatment and to take that first step. The goal is $25,000, and last check a little while ago, we had exceeded that goal already. So thank you so much to everyone. And the week's not over yet, so we are very, very fortunate. A special thank you to the sponsor for this evening, which is ADCO Tire. ADCO's been on with us for a couple of years, and we're really grateful for their support. If you were on earlier, you would have heard that we have a number of restaurants that are supporting us this week. Today is Harvey's, so if you hadn't had anything to eat yet and they're still open when you're done, you can do that. Tomorrow is the world famous Dock Lunch in Penetang, so if you're around, please treat yourself to lunch or dinner, and a portion of those sales tomorrow will be donated back to this campaign. So thank you so much for joining us. This is our last session today. Tomorrow we have a session featuring mindfulness. We also have a session with Dr. Rob Meter, who's our lead for the Child and Youth Mental Health Program, and it's supporting mental health of families during the pandemic. And then tomorrow night is an Our Health session with local experts. So Dr. Rob Meter is on that panel as well, Dr. Anita Federici, as well as Nicole Mace, who is one of our organizational development consultants and the leader of many of our mindfulness and wellness initiatives. So thank you. If you'd like to make a donation, you can go to waypointcenter.ca to get your mental health in motion. And the same link that you're on tonight is the same for all the sessions all of this week. So you can join any session at any time. I will also say we've had a few glitches with people kind of Zoom bombing us. If that happens this evening, we may have to abruptly end the session if we can't get it under control. If that happens, I do apologize in advance, but our gracious speakers, Shauna and Troy, have agreed to tape their presentation, and we will have it posted on social media afterwards if that happens. So thank you for your understanding. Gwen, did you have a question?
Yes, just I don't understand what Zoom bombing is.
So it's when someone comes right into your Zoom session to disrupt it. Basically, they're not there to participate in what you're doing. It's it could be inappropriate content sometimes. So and it's not always easy to get them out. So we've discussed this with the presenters, and I do apologize in advance if that has to happen. Doesn't look like it so far, but hopefully we'll be all right. So welcome, Troy and Shauna.
Good evening, everyone. So, Gway, Imsit Nogaman, Deloise got McBactus, Mendoran Gawich, Elnu and Delaway, Octa Unkuk, Unamagi, and Wiggy Whippy. So, good evening, everyone. I said hello, all my relations. My name is Troy White. I'm from Mi'kmaq territory. And I'm Crow Clan. So I like to acknowledge also I'm from Mi'kmaq territory, so I am in the Anishinaabe / Haudenosaunee territory. So I like to recognize that. So since I'm singing, I'm a visitor, so I'm singing when I'm here. So and I'm gonna open with a song. I'm just gonna do two pickups because we're short on time, and this will relate to our storytelling as well. And also just to acknowledge that we have expanded our programming to what we call gathering our bundles. So Feather Carriers Regional is part of that bundle that we have. We call it gathering our bundles, which Manjidan Yawin Bamazuin is the Anishinaabe name. So if so that regional feather carriers is part of our program. So it's just part of our bundle. So I'm going to start off with a song to open us up, and then I'll turn it over to Shauna to continue from there. So. When I hey ha da we ha ya ho e do. When I hey ha da we ha ya ho e do. Hey ya hey da we da ya hey ha da we ha ya ho e do. Hey ya hey da we da ya hey ha da. Weha, weha, ya ho, hey, ya, hey, all day, ocean, ingi, benji, bali, hey, ya, minwar, dashana, nango, inga, mishko, gabo, me, weda, ya, hey, ha, da, weha, weha, ya, ho, hey, ya, hey, Minwa dashanda nango inga mishko gabo me weda ya he hada weha weha ya ho hey ya he ho. So Chi Miigwech, and I'm going to turn it over to Shauna.
Thank you, Troy. I never get tired of hearing you sing. I just want to draw your attention to the fact that if we were gathered in the same room tonight and Troy was singing and drumming, you would very likely feel that drum beat either in your heart or in your spine, but somewhere in your body would be vibrating. And it's hard to achieve that same effect given the acoustics that we're blessed to work with over the internet. But given that our theme is storytelling tonight, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes just for a couple of minutes. And I'm going to share a piece that was shared with me last night. And then what I would really like to do is just invite you, if you wish, to share with our small group, because we have a nice small group tonight. We can do that. What effect what I'm about to share with you has on you, because then I'll share the effect it had on me when I heard it last night. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and just listen. on back. Thank you for closing your eyes, and thank you for listening. So that was a piece of flute music that was shared with me last night, and the artist gave me permission to share it with you here this evening. And for me, when I first heard that piece, I was like, wow, that's an awful lot like I'm being told a story right now. And indeed, the intention was that it always is a story. Just like Troy's song was a story and an invitation, that little piece of flute music is also a story and an invitation. So I don't know how aware this group is in particular, but Indigenous people are usually of the belief that we have cellular memory. We store memories from our ancestors within our DNA. And sometimes there are certain things like our songs and our ceremonies, pieces of music that unlock that particular DNA, and a story or a memory or even a dream will come forth. And when I heard that particular piece of music last night, it reminded me of the spring and how creatures are waking up and coming to life, and they're playful. So all you have to do is hear the frogs at night or the birds at 4 o'clock in the morning to acknowledge that beauty and that renewal. And that's what that particular piece of flute music did for me. It made me think of playfulness and springtime and creatures waking up and all of the yummy edibles that are starting to poke their heads up right now, like the morels and the wild leeks and onions. And people go crazy for fiddleheads this time of year. So there's a little bit of magic contained in that piece of music for me. But I would really love it if we could have a bit of a sharing circle this evening, and share with each other either what Troy's drumming and singing inspired, or what that piece of particular flute music inspired, and just understand that we all have our ancestral memories stored within our DNA and in our cells. So it's a pretty neat thing to know that we have a database or a library within us that we do have access to. So I'm gonna call on Christy to share first, and then Christy can pass the feather on to whoever she chooses after that.
All right. Well, thank you. The flute music was beautiful, and it calmed me. So I've been sitting here. I haven't stopped working all day until I logged on to here, and so I think I needed that, a little bit of just calm. I don't get that sense of story when I listen to music like that, but I love that concept. I think it's beautiful, and I also love that that piece of knowledge that you shared around our ancestors' DNA being within us, because maybe I'll think differently now. So yeah, no, it was beautiful, and I just found it just gave me the calm that I needed. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you to the artist for allowing you to share that, because I think that was wonderful. Gwen, I'll pass it to you. Becky, are you able to unmute Gwen?
Everyone should be able to unmute themselves.
Yeah, that's what I
right
thought. And
Okay.
there we go.
Can you hear
There
me
we
now?
go. Yes.
Okay, now it worked. Thank you. And yes, thank you for the music and the words. With the drumming, I definitely feel that on a deeper level. The drum beat in my heart and in my abdomen. Whereas with the flute, I feel that a little more in my chest, and it is a more peaceful and calming sensation. And what I visioned or thought of was like the stillness of a lake as opposed to the rough waters of Georgian Bay. So that stillness and that peace and calm, and like the hearing of loons. I don't know what time of year loons are around. I always thought year round. I don't know, maybe they're spring. sound that we hear? Does anyone know? And that's all I have to share, but I would be interested if someone does know. Thank you.
That
Oh, and who do
particular
I?
that particular piece came from George and Bagwan, so good call.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Thank you. And I'll pass to, I guess it's just Ava or Peter. Right. So Peter, and then another woman, perhaps.
Not maybe. Oh, there we go.
You're muted, Peter.
Oh, the host must unmute. Huh.
There.
Oh, there we go.
Muted.
Sorry about that. We're all learning this stuff.
Yes, definitely. I felt the sound of water with the flute. One place I enjoy going is in Bracebridge. It's called Chickadee Lane, and you can feed the chickadees in the winter. And then in the spring, there's a stream beside the trail, and I've stopped a few times to record the sound of the water. So the flute music definitely made me think of the trickling streams.
That was lovely, Peter. Thank you for sharing that. Who would you like to pass it to next, Peter?
I shouldn't have muted it. I guess we'll pass it on to who hasn't spoken. Shelley.
Hi, thank you, Peter. Yeah, I found the drumming that Troy did was very powerful, and like is that your puppy? And the flute I found very calming and very peaceful. Again, like Christy had said too, it's been a whirlwind of a day. So just to be able to take that deep breath and be calm and relaxed was a great feeling for sure.
Okay. So I know Avery just came in
And Ave, do you wanna share?
I'm a little not.
That's okay. You can speak without putting your camera on if you want.
Okay. No, it's okay. I'm here. I just had to switch over from my cell phone to my computer. So apologies. I'm a little bit unorganized, but I did hear a lovely flute, and I also heard the drumming. And being in the OPP, we are actually really sort of involved in the sessions that we're also listening to for the murdered missing Indigenous women and girls sessions. So I think it's all very timely and really, really interesting to hear. So thank you for that.
GYMHiM. So I'm going to talk a little bit now, and GYMHiM, Shauna, for playing that. And then I had some visions actually, and it's going to relate to a story I'm going to tell. So we're going to talk about various things, and I could talk for hours and hours and hours. I'm good like that. I'm Crow Clan, so I can call on forever. But I had visions of birds actually flying over that water. So that's what they had come to my mind, with that flute music. And so we're talking about storytelling and Indigenous storytelling, and a lot of what we do, we do with our language is so descriptive because it's verb based. So a word doesn't just mean necessarily one thing or describe something. So it's not a noun. It's not a dead language. It's a very live language. So in itself is a story each time you're talking. So for example, I always use the term, and forgive me because I'm going to use Mi'kmaq terms because my Ojibwe is not the best. So if I say creator, we'll say Gazok, and Gazok means I have been created. So it entitles everything up to this point in time. So the creation story and everything, that's a whole lot. You are being created. So everything that's going on around me, the sun's shining, there's some clouds, a little bit of wind, and it's a beautiful day, but it's a little bit cool. So everything that's going on around us at this time, and you will be created. So what does that entail? You know, so everything for the future. So that description of us saying creator, it doesn't symbolize an old dude sitting in the cloud with a long beard, as some people might term as God, or we say creator would signify that, you know, or the past, the present, and the future. So it's a big term. It's very difficult to put into words. So that's how our languages work this way. And in turn, it also, it's in our song. So that song I sang, a song sings about, and it relates back to a story that we have, a traditional story, a traditional teaching. And that those words, I sing Ode Ajun Yang. So it goes Ode Ajun Nong Ingi Benji Bami He Ahea Minwa Dashanda Nango Inga Mishko Gabome. Means from the mountains we came and here we stand strong. So it refers back to a teaching we talk about where we had lost our way and we are kind of, for lack of better words, exiled kind of out and put out into the mountains. And until we learned our ways, now we have come back and we're here standing strong. So that's how our songs will go sometimes. So sometimes you hear those words and it could be talking about a teaching. So, and it brings those languages, and again, those languages are limited putting it into English, but that's how we do storytelling in this way. We do storytelling in, as you heard that music, that beautiful music that Shauna had put forward, how you can feel that story coming alive inside of ourselves and what it means to us. And with that as well, and I was having that vision of a bird, I'm going to talk about, there's a story from where I'm from. It's about, and coincidentally, my dad's from the Crow clan, my mom's from the Eagle clan. And it talks about this crow was really hungry and he's out flying around and he comes down to this riverside. And, you know, like down east, the rivers are like not here all grass banked, but usually gravel or rocks along the side and rocks in the middle and kind of fast running streams. And he's flying around looking for some scraps, looking for some food, and he doesn't know what to do. And he sees this big eagle come soaring around, and that eagle comes and lands in this really tall pine, this tall white pine tree. And he lands down, and the eagle just looks down into the stream and he sees a shadow. So the eagle leaps up into the air and he swoops around and he comes down and bang, hits this salmon, pulls it out, and he goes over to the side of the river and he starts eating that salmon. And the crow standing there, hey, look at that. I'm impressed. Look at you. I can't believe how well you can hunt. That's amazing. It's amazing. Can I have the scraps? Can I have the scraps? And the eagle says, sure. He said, you sure do look hungry. And he goes, oh yeah, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. He said, how about I invite you back to the nest tonight? And, you know, Mother Eagle will make that great big meal for us, and we'll go back and we'll have this great meal. He said, do you like onions? Oh yeah, I love onions. How about potatoes? Oh yeah, they're great too. I'll eat anything. So he invites them back to the nest, and sure enough, that night you have this great feast. But that crow, he was like, you know, as anything, we don't want to just take, we like to give back. So he said, I promise you tomorrow, Mr. Eagle, he says, I'm going to go and I'll catch the food tomorrow. I'll get that salmon for us. And so the eagle says, are you sure? I don't know. And he goes, oh yeah, I got this. Don't worry about it. I'll get that salmon. So sure enough, right at daybreak, that crow gets up and he's flying around. He doesn't want the eagle to get there before him. So he gets up there and he starts flying around, and then he goes down to the side of the river and he's hopping around looking for those salmon. And then he's back up and from one tree to another, goes up to that tall white pine looking down, and then flies around a bit. And then he sees that eagle way up high circling around. He says, oh goodness, now the pressure's really on. This eagle's going to see me, eh? So he goes to the top of that white pine, the same as that eagle had done. And he's looking down and he sees in this river, he sees this dark shadow, and he's thinking, oh, that's great. I think I see a salmon. I think I see a salmon. And he's looking, oh, the pressure's really on. Mr. Eagle's really checking me out, eh? So he takes off up into the air and he swoops around. He comes down and goes for that shadow and hits it hard. Bang! And it was a rock. And he tumbles over into the river. And so that eagle sees what happens, swoops down, grabs that crow up, picks him, shakes him out, and puts him at the side of the river. And he goes, what happened? And the crow says, rock, rock. So that's a story that, one of these stories we tell, and it has that sense of humor to it. That still help us remember some of these stories. But that story also teaches us lessons, right? And we talk about these identity, and that's part of our feather carriers training. A part of a gathering our bundles training is one of those main questions is, who am I? What's my identity? Where do I come from? Who am I? And what am I doing here? And that's very important to realize. So that crow's job is not to hunt those salmon, and it's to realize our roles and who I am in this world, and to realize those roles. That's the eagle's role, is to hunt those, and for the crow to know his role. So that's when we're having these stories. That's what we do with this, right? And that's so very important. And that's where our storytelling jumps in, right? So I know we were going to talk a little bit about sweetgrass today as well. And so I have a small blade of sweetgrass. You know what? I should turn my background off because you can't see when I got my background on. Let me do this. Shazam. There you go. So I got a small blade of sweetgrass here. Okay. So many people have seen this before. And this sweetgrass is a grass, and it does smell kind of sweet. It's a beautiful aroma that grows usually around where water is, right? Or wet areas. And we talk about it in Mi'kmaq storytelling about how that's where our nephew, the Glooscap, had come around and seen his nephew after he had just been created. And the nephew had stood up and strong and young and strong, and that represents the youth is strong, but also they look up to us, right? And that we have to do the right thing to set that a good example. But that sweetgrass is 3 bundles of blades of grass. So we take 7 blades of grass, and each blade, if you take sweetgrass, one side is very shiny, and that shiny side represents those great parts in ourselves that we really love to show everybody. And and I always will say, like, for example, like, because I look like Brad Pitt, that's a shiny side. No, it's that sense of humor that I have is that shiny side for me. And then we also have that rougher side to ourselves. And sometimes those are the sides that we don't necessarily want to show people. Maybe sometimes I maybe have a bit of road rage, or maybe I procrastinate, or maybe whatever that is. We have those rougher sides to ourselves. So that's the darker side of that sweetgrass braid. So what we do is we take 7 blades of grass for each bundle, and we'll take 3 bundles. So one bundle, that 7 is a sacred number for us. So we talk about that in Mi'kmaq terms. In our creation story, we have Gazolk, our creator. We have Niskamij, his grandfather's son, who gives us our shadows, connects us to creator, from creator to Mother Earth. And so we have creator and grandfather, son, and mother earth, and then the 4 directions. That's 7 right there. And we talk about the 7 7 pieces of wood to start the sacred fire, the 7 sacred sparks from Glooskap's creation, and then the 7 territories that were created. So 7 is a very sacred number. So we take 7, and each bundle, one can represent past, one can represent present, and one can represent future. Again, it's very similar to Gazok. And we wind those together, also mental, the physical, and the spiritual. And we weave those together. So it's not just tied together, but woven together. So each of those woven together symbolizes us as a human as well. So we have to be fit mentally, because it'll affect our spiritual and emotional self. We have to be physically fit, or it'll affect the mental and the spiritual side. So each of them affects the other, because they're all interwoven together. So that's about the sweetgrass. A little bit about sweet. I'm not going to go too long with it, because I know we're starting to wind down here. So that's a bit about sweetgrass. So there's so many teachings behind this, and that's storytelling about to talk about this. Our teachings, we also, another term is we say teachings, but we also learn most of them through little stories. And that's a little bit about sweetgrass, and that gives us, also represents kindness. So as we go forward in life, if we can be kind to others, first of all, we have to be kind to ourselves. If we're not kind to ourselves, we're not good for other people. We have to take care of ourselves, treat yourself really well. And in turn, we have to treat others very well, very kind. And that will lead a good life for ourselves, because you know, if we're just about ourselves, it's no good either. So we always want to do that in terms of service as well to other people. So that's just a little bit about it. And unfortunately, because of time constraints, like I said, I could go for hours and hours, but I'm going to pass it off as well to see if anybody else would like to add anything in to the conversation. So.
I could say something.
Yes,
Am I
go ahead.
Okay. Just that I did have a session with John Rice, and he did speak to me of the 7 grandfather teachings, which I find very beneficial to incorporate in my own life and beliefs, and how I live my life for myself and others.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then 7 grandfather teachings can be one of those foundational teachings that we teach as well. And again, a lot of those are taught as stories, and that's how we can maintain our teachings on a consistent basis, as opposed to trying to memorize like point form or bullet form. we learn stories, and it's easier to pass along. So that's when people talking about oral society, that's how we were able to pass these teachings on. So if I want to talk about identity, it's easy for me to talk about the eagle and the crow, and it's easy to teach somebody that way, as opposed to saying, well, you know, this is the way you should be, right? It's a lot easier this way. Because we did have.
I think it's a much easier method to hear and to absorb than when it's done in textbook form. To listen to a story, I think, is a much more meaningful and easier to take in.
Yes, exactly. And when you have those opportunities to learn from these teachers around the area, or not just from our area, but we have so many beautiful teachers in our area, and Zagasage John Rice is one of those teachers who's amazing to learn from. So yeah, that's awesome.
I can attest to that. So I worked with John for a couple of years, and then I've worked with him on various committees and whatever. And a few years ago, my daughter met him working at the Georgian Bay Native Friendship Center. And so she says to me, I met somebody that you know, I met your friend today. And I said, oh, who was that? And so she said, it was John. I said, well, whatever John says to do that in life, because then you'll be fine. And then I saw him a little while later. He says, yeah, I met your daughter. I said, I know. I told her just to listen to whatever advice you give her and she'll be successful. He laughed. I wanted to comment. Sorry,
Go ahead, Christy.
I wanted to comment on your message around kindness, both to kindness to yourself and kindness to others, because I think that message today, during Mental Health Week is really important. And I think, for the most part, we're really good at being kind to others, but we don't always remember to be kind to ourselves too. So, and I think you're right. You can't be any good to others if you're not good to yourself. So I really appreciated that message. I like it. Thank you.
Gretch.
Just as a final couple thoughts from me, and the floor is still wide open to contribute, but storytelling as a form of teaching and discipline, it's a very gentle way, I think, to make an impression on somebody instead of disciplining them or shaming. Storytelling is always the perfect opportunity to teach in that gentle, kind way. We're not pointing fingers at anybody, but there's always a life lesson in there, and it's an absolute art for sure, but it's something we can all practice. And I think that was my final point, is that some of the greatest teachers teach by telling stories, not necessarily disciplining you or telling you how or what to do. So it is all about that being gentle, as Troy mentioned, and that kindness. Sweetgrass represents that kindness, among other things. There's many teachings that come with the Sweetgrass teachings. So we're only ever just scraping the surface. But tonight was lovely.
And
Go ahead, Gwen.
thank you. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just wondering, is there a book that has stories in it to read to others or to children, as opposed to incorporating, like making my own stories up and trying to figure out how to implement a belief or my message in that?
I think if you're wanting to teach and share, your stories should be your own. They should come from your life's experiences, for sure. I do know that something that people in this area refer to as the Bible is called the Mishomis book, and by
I have it.
Eddie Ben Benai. Like that
Thank you.
that's the go-to book, right?
I have it. Okay, thank you.
That is a great book to have in your collection.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a great book to gift too, if you ever have the chance to do that. Absolutely. So when you share a story, you are sharing a gift. You are gifting someone. So remember that too.
Yeah, I think as Shauna has, I always love the way Shauna puts things. She expresses things so beautifully, and I know she's a mother. I'm a father. Most of us are probably here, are probably parents, and we think about those times, like when my parents used to preach to me, "Don't do this, don't do that." It's one thing I was taught when I was younger. I had learned is that if you tell somebody don't drink alcohol, they don't hear the don't, they'll hear drink alcohol. So you're not, but if you give them a story about the time that you did it and it didn't work out well, they're more likely to listen to that story, as opposed to that preaching to them, don't do this or don't do that, or you should do this or you should do that, where you give them a relatable story. So that's where I think Shauna was talking about, give them your own stories too. Sometimes if we're talking to somebody about how, experience in my life of this happened to me and this is the results. And that's where I believe our people, that's what happened is it was just a question of saying, okay, this has happened to us, whether as a group of people, a tribe, or as a family, or even as an individual, and you pass on a story, and that was a lesson to learn about things, right? Like as opposed to preaching. So that's the beauty of that, and it develops a good relationship, especially with our children, right? Even as I'm older, my youngest one is 23, and it forms a much better bond and relationship by sharing stories with them than trying to preach to them, because oh, Dad, here you go, oh, shut up. Like, where he's actually able to relate. So I think that's very important. And yeah, so that's the beauty of that insight, right, of telling stories. So
And I think telling personal stories, as poetic and insightful as some of the stories in the books may be, I think that we probably don't feel confident in our own stories, but I think that they're honest and they're real, and the sharing of them is very important, and even more so than what's written.
yeah, exactly. That's that. Exactly. And I know, Gwen, you had asked about how many books have these stories. There's not a huge amount because, again, we are an oral society, and I know that Mashoma's book is a great book, but it's also, unfortunately, I wish he had written more, but that's part of it. Those teachings go get passed down, right? And you have to seek out those people who learn those stories from them to get in turn those stories, right? So, but yeah, that being said, I think we're running up and at the end here. So I like to say personally to myself, Gwetch, I really appreciate everybody. Well, Alio means thank you everyone in Mi'kmaq. So for your time and listening, and I'll turn it over to my I'm going to say co-worker, co-family member, extended family member, Shauna.
We really do spend more time together than with our own families, don't we? Okay, so I guess it's probably my job to wrap it up tonight, unless there's anything else anybody wanted to add, contribute, ask, comment upon.
I'd just like to thank you both so much for being here, and whoever organized
and we made it through
We
without
did.
any
Thank you so much.
interruptions.
Yes, this was, I'm feeling very, very grateful I got to participate tonight, and grateful that you two were able to share your time with us and share your stories.
Pleasure. Absolute
That was
pleasure.
wonderful.
This was a really great safe space today. And just to draw your attention, Troy and I are both wearing our red shirts. Thank you, Troy, for that. So as part of our duty and our responsibility, we continue to honor those stories that were cut short, those lives that didn't get to go home. So we honor and we remember May the 5th, our murdered and our missing, those that didn't make it home. We remember them, and we do ceremony for them, and we say our prayers, and they had stories to tell too. So we think about them and we keep them in our thoughts and prayers, and we will all go forward and continue to do the work that we do and the sharing that we are meant to share. So as we say, Chimigwech in this area, in this region, thank you very much for having Troy and I, and good luck with the rest of the fundraiser. All the best. It's so inspiring to hear that goals are being met and surpassed. That's absolutely wonderful. And the project and the program couldn't be a more worthwhile and worthy cause. So
Thank you very much to all of you for joining us tonight. And thank you for sharing about May 5th. And we had another meeting today where we had some folks on with their red shirts on as well. And the rest of us are like, oh, we forgot. So in that vein, I'd like to dedicate this session to all of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And I think that's kind of fitting. So thank you very much. Thank you for participating. Thank you for contributing if you've done that. Still a chance to do so, but we also have lots of other sessions coming up this week. So check it out on our website, on our Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, I think that's everything. I thank you again to Adgo Tire for supporting
Thank you so
us
much.
today.
Oh yes, to the sponsor. That's wonderful. Enjoy the rest of your evening,
Yes,
everyone.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Bama
Thanks,
pee,
everyone.
as we say.